week one initial reaction of what you thought of the SEC.
Well, I mean, you got to start with the two big wins versus the ACC, right? Bama beats up on Miami and Georgia. I mean, they win a nail biter versus Clemson. So I think it starts with those two right there. Very, very impressive W's from both organizations, both programs. I had a lot of questions about Alabama, in particular on the offensive side of the football. They lost a ton of talent, high-end talent, and they lost their offensive coordinator in Steve Sarkisian when he went to University of Texas. So I looked at that and said, okay, Bill O'Brien is the play call. He's the one dotting the T's and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And it's going to be interesting. I watched him struggle offensively here in Houston for 3 years, covering him with the Texans. It was going to be very interesting how he fit in at Alabama. And Max, I know you and I talked about this, and I found it very difficult to believe. And we're going to have two-time SEC Coach of the Year, Houston Nutt, on with us here in a couple of minutes, and maybe he can answer the question. But I still find it very difficult to understand how Bill O'Brien went into Alabama and somehow learned their offense as an offensive play caller, and then went out there and called a game that appeared to be no different than what we've seen from Alabama in the past. So I don't know how that worked out. I've never seen it. I didn't know Saban had an offense, Max. I thought he was a defensive-minded guy. But that was really impressive in Alabama with Bryce Young. The kid's worth the millions of dollars that he's already made as a college quarterback. And then what Georgia did, man, you can't say enough about, the defense in particular in Georgia. But what an old school, just defensive football game that was really fun to watch. It was a nail biter, and Georgia came out on top. So the two powers that be in the SEC, Max, they're the two powers that be in the SEC.
Well, I think when you look at it, you have to say that Bill O'Brien came in and he got Coach Klein's playbook, from the water boy, right?
That's right. He
came in and said, "Hey, Bill, how you doing? Hey, listen, take this, study it, do it, or else you're gone." I think that's what. So Saban's offense is probably a collection of those things.
Max, I'm literally being told that Bill O'Brien went in there trying to do his thing, and Saban said, whoa, pump your brakes, kiddo. You're going to do things my way. I know you're bringing your buddy in, the offensive line coach that used to be the head coach at Jacksonville. I know it. But what I'm being told is that Nick Saban said, whoa, here's what you're going to do. Here's the offense that you're going to run, and we're not going to change one thing. This is Coach Rehab 101. You fit in, you don't run things. And I don't know about you, Max, but that's the damnedest thing I've ever heard at the college or pro level for a former head coach in the NFL to do that. I mean, but the proof's in the pudding. We watched the game, man. That was Bama's offense with Tua. That was Bama's offense with Mac Jones. That was Bama's offense, not Bill O'Brien's. So for what it's worth, I salute Bill O'Brien for fitting in and calling a good first game.
Yeah, well, I think when you look at this, right, Saban is the home of disavowed coaches. But I think he also, recognizes that, if I have a formula, especially a championship formula, why am I going to bring you in to change said formula, especially when I've seen your formula did not work at your previous stop? You look at that and you say, okay, it's different where Sark was still okay offensively, but it just didn't fit, right? And you bring him in. Lane Kiffin, he couldn't handle managerial duties as a head coach at the time, but he was a gifted offensive mind. You bring him in. But Bill O'Brien, you were the head guy. It didn't work out. You're taking a demotion, and you're coming into a well-oiled machine. I don't need your part to be made out of anything special. I don't need it to have any extra responsibilities. I just need to fit into the cogwheel, right? So everything keeps churning. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing. But I think also it's going to ultimately help Bill O'Brien when he takes his next leap, because you see what NFL talent looks like at this level. And Nick Saban's not trying to mess with that. So I look at that and I say kudos for a shot, because we were being kind by saying they beat up on Miami. They absolutely blew the doors off of them like their mascot, the Hurricane. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's right.
it was from when they said go, that whistle blew and that ball got kicked off. It was like, hey, this is our spring game, except for we brought in a JV squad. That's how they treated Miami down there, and it was crazy to watch.